You had two really good games, and then one really bad game right at the end. So yeah, I'm gonna do this outro, and then I'm gonna play a good video game now. Yes, this is that game. That joke won't make complete sense unless you watch the end of this video and the very beginning of this video, but that's what we call continuity. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Time to show you guys a really cool game. Mad Rat Dead, a rhythm platformer made by Nippon Ichi Software, who typically make RPGs such as Disgaea, Marl Kingdom, Soul Nomad, and The World Eaters, among others. The only one I knew about was Disgaea, and I actually might look into the other games personally later, but right now I want to talk about why I'm even reviewing this game in the first place. I imagine that my viewer base is made mostly, if not entirely, of gamers, so at least 99% of you have a backlog of games you want to try and reduce, but end up not doing so because other games come out and you focus on that. I am very much like you, fellow residents. But in recent months, I've been working through some games. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Gunman Clive 1 and 2, a few Metroid games, Biomutant, AI The Somnium Files, Rayman Legends, Spyro 2 and 3. You guys probably don't care about that. Point is, this is one of the games I had in my backlog, and initially I wasn't gonna review it, so I didn't record the footage the first time, but since you're watching this video, that clearly did not remain the case. For those new to my channel, I normally review license-based games, and let me tell you, some of them are, not good. So when I played this and saw how cool of a game it was, I just could not resist the urge to talk about it. So today, I'll be looking at... Actually, no. I will be showing you Mad Rat Dead and just how cool this game is. At the beginning, you, the player, give your name and answer a couple of rather defining questions while a rat is being dissected in front of you. Yeah, this is pretty different from what I normally talk about, and this happens before the main menu even shows up. Afterwards, the rat is woken up by the rat god, who makes a couple comments about the fact that the rat's life was wasted caged up in a lab, and how he has to have some kind of regrets, so she'll assist the dead rat by letting him relive his final day to find happiness. The dead rat obviously isn't content with dying the way he has, so he accepts the rat god's help, though she does wonder what he'll do. The dead rat is mad at the human that had him in a cage all his life, so he's gonna try to kill the human before the mad rat is dead again. Reluctantly, the rat god shows him his hidden power that uses his heart. One of them has music play and the other lets him rewind time. It's like a phone wave, but with a radio instead of a microwave. Back on his final day, the rat sets off to try and kill the human. During that time, he discovers that his heart can apparently talk, and it surprisingly isn't that much in alignment with the rat's idea of killing the human, even so much as finding the whole situation laughable and calling him Mad Rat. And thus, their journey goes on. Now, for those who want to avoid spoilers and play the game for themselves, I'll leave a timestamp that gives my thoughts on the story as a whole, but for anyone else, strap yourselves in. The duo find out that no one else can see Heart after talking to some mob rats. After continuing on for a bit, they get caught by a human and sent back to the other rats who are acting differently than last time. Or at least Mad Rat thinks so. And then... yeah, that. I know we saw Mad Rat getting dissected earlier, but this is genuinely horrifying. Once he's fought off a ton of the brain-exposed rats, he passes out where he has another conversation with the rat god about killing his fellow brethren. Yeah, he's kind of a murderer now. She also tells Mad Rat that he should try to make his way outside. When Mad Rat wakes up, he and Heart are in a sewer instead of the lab. While making their way out, Mad Rat talks about how he wants to leave his mark on the world before dying, and he doesn't want to constantly turn back time to live the same day over and over again because it'd just end up being the same as what his life already was, and he'd never be at peace. Later on, Mad Rat starts seeing ghosts of the rats he killed, however, Heart cannot see them. They assume that the rats now want to get revenge on Mad Rat for, killing them. And man, can I just say early that horrific imagery is really well done in this game because now Mad Rat has to run from this.
Oh my goodness!
He does escape, but not before passing out again. This time the conversation is about the ghosts and the possible remorse Mad Rat feels about killing them. Now the rat god tells him to follow any cheese he sees to reach his goal. Mad Rat wakes up back at the lab and proceeds to hunt down the human once more. Heart can't see some things that Mad Rat can, such as the moon and even the human, which leads to some arguments between them. Mad Rat does end up killing the human and proceeds to listen more to the rat god, since following the cheese has gotten him this far, why not listen to her more? But since Mad Rat is no longer choosing to listen to Hart, Hart decides that a good old slap to the face is warranted. This reveals that Mad Rat hasn't been in the lab, but instead in some forest. Mad Rat still tries to go after the cheese, which almost gets him nabbed by a cat. While avoiding the cat, Hart tells Mad Rat about how he didn't end up killing the human and how the zombie rats, the ghosts, and the second time in the lab were just hallucinations. Mad Rat gets pretty upset about it, finally realizing that he is the Mad Rat dead. I finally managed to work in the title somehow. To console him, Hart does what Harts do best and support their host. Anyways, they try to get back to the lab and run into stray rats talking about cheese just like how Mad Rat was earlier. They even bring up the rat god before getting nabbed by the cat from earlier. It almost gets Mad Rat too if it wasn't for a little girl coming by and saving him. Mad Rat isn't very fond of being saved by a human or chased by a cat, considering he doesn't like either of them that much. If anything, he pretty much hates them. Regardless, to get back to the lab, they have to go through the sewer where they run into the cat again. Mad Rat actually holds his ground and defeats the cat this time and has every opportunity to leave the cat to drown. However, he decides to rewind time and help the cat get out alive, deciding to show just the slightest bit of sympathy. Mad Rat and Hart split up from the cat on good terms and they go throughout the city before hearing a car crash. They investigate and see... I don't think I've talked about how proud I am of this character. Mad Rat rewinds time to save this kid's life and tells her to live a great one. Unfortunately, the girl can't understand him, but I think the sentiment is still felt there as she gives him cheese as a reward. Like actual cheese, not the hallucination cheese. This whole event makes Mad Rat deeply question the rat god's intentions and even if she's real at all. They keep going, but suddenly, Mad Rat runs out of time, according to the rat god, and forces Mad Rat into another hallucination to be eaten by a cat, only for that cat to be the very one we saved earlier. With their plan foiled, Mad Rat asks about Hart being more than just an illusion. Hart talks about how he suddenly appeared to change Mad Rat's fate, but wasn't able to. He doesn't really elaborate on that or what exactly he is any further though. Still, Mad Rat doesn't really care about what Hart was as long as they're on the same side. Soon enough, they finally make it back to the lab, for real this time, and Mad Rat is reluctant about revenge being the only way for him to find peace after everything he's been through. After finding the human once more, they also read a book that the human was writing in. Inside the book are some personal reasons that have a striking similarity to the very beginning of what I started this section with. Putting it bluntly, this is why the player was doing what he did to Mad Rat. Upon this new information, Mad Rat actually gets to choose what he wants here, whether to kill the human or not to kill the human. For the sake of consistency with everything else we've built up so far, let's say that he doesn't kill the human. So now all that's left is for Mad Rat and Hart to await their impending demise, but hey, if they're gonna die, might as well have some great scenery on a rooftop under a full moon, right? Right before dying though, the rat god steps in and spoils the fun of them not letting things end the way she wants things to. She rewinds time to that morning, which in turn erases everything that Mad Rat and Hart have done. When Mad Rat awakens, Hart is nowhere to be found, and he doesn't have a gaping hole in his torso. Mad Rat is able to see his operation and finds out that Hart was put inside of him by the human. Mad Rat then wakes up again later with Hart inside the cage. They talk about the heart transplant and how it failed, which is what Hart meant earlier about not being able to change Mad Rat's fate. Mad Rat decides to try and rewind time to stop the operation from happening so that Hart doesn't have to die with him, as much as Hart doesn't want that to happen. However, the rat god herself says otherwise, so they're transported somewhere, this is probably just another hallucination, and the two have to defeat her and make it back to the past. During their travels, Mad Rat tells Hart that once he stops the operation, for Hart to leave without him and do the things that they did together before time was turned back. That way he'll die with meaning instead of living life with no purpose or running in circles for eternity trying to dodge death. The two confront the rat god, who reveals that she has to live inside of rats to continue living on, and even if she dies, that is how she leaves her mark on the world. She also used time travel to make sure that Mad Rat continued living, even if it was the same day over and over again. She also says that anyone can turn back time, but they just don't know it, which is incredibly worrying, honestly. Anyways, they engage in a battle to decide all of their fates. The pair defeats the rat god and successfully turns back time once more so that Mad Rat, weakened but determined, can free Hart before the operation. Turns out, Hart was a cat before he died, and Hart didn't tell him since Mad Rat said he hated cats before. However, I don't think that matters anymore. Mad Rat sends Hart off, but Hart does manage to convince Mad Rat to let him be carried out and hang around a little while longer, even if he does have to see him die. The story as a whole is pretty awesome. It's honestly insane how I can go from not knowing anything about either of these characters to caring about them so much after only 4 hours. Practically every scene builds their relationship along with some witty dialogue here and there. The twists were cool, and man, I am a sucker for good foreshadowing, and there are plenty of moments of it that aren't outwardly obvious the first time around. Admittedly, some parts are kinda cliche, and you've probably heard it 30 times before, but it still hits the same the 31st time. The story is probably the weakest part of the game, but considering how my opinion of the weakest aspect of a rhythm platformer is the story, and it's this good, that only bodes well for the rest of the game. Starting with the art style, honestly, I don't even need to put it into words, but since I'm making a video, it is awesome. All of the drawings for the characters are incredibly expressive and vibrant, especially the boss designs as I've already shown earlier, and each background stands out very well from each other, while still being just as well crafted. But one really cool thing for this entire game is that almost everything is to the beat of the music. The way characters move when they're standing still, the enemies you encounter during a level, the text boxes that characters have on screen, the menus, and the overall UI all take part in the beat of whatever song is playing, even as it changes. The controller even gives a small vibration to the beat when you're playing. I have no real way of showing this, but trust me. And yes, you do have the option to turn that off. Even so, it's so small I didn't even notice it until I played the game again recently for additional footage. The only thing that doesn't do this is when you continue from pausing, which stands out a lot when nothing else moves, but it's one small blemish over an incredibly cool aspect of the game that creates a big focus on unity with music, which is what the gameplay is entirely going for. But we'll get to the gameplay later. As for the music, being a rhythm platformer means that the music needs to be one of, if not the best aspect of the entire game, as that's going to be one of the main factors for making you want to keep playing. And I gotta say, it's definitely one of the best parts of the whole game. I actively listen to most of the 48 songs outside of the game, and each composer deserves every bit of credit and money for their work because this game has so many superb jams. Each song does a fantastic job of getting you hyped while playing it, which is exactly what rhythm games should do. Particular mentions to every song in Chapter 4. Having banger after banger like that should be illegal. Best part of the entire game for me. In this game, you have to make your way through multiple levels from start to finish before your time limit runs out. Or I guess it's more accurate to say the amount of beats run out since that's tied to the beat rather than a consistent amount of time. Anyways, alongside that beat limit, every action you are able to do must be tied to the beat of whatever song is playing. Said actions include the main movement options of the game, dashing and jumping. In addition to being able to jump off of walls, you also kinda have a double jump, which leads into a homing attack used against enemies. While airborne, you can ground pound to send yourself straight downward, attacking anything beneath you. Spinning powers up your next jump or dash. Another way of thinking about it is charging your next input. Now, the main gimmick this game has is that whenever you get hit, you can rewind everything to an earlier point. This does not restore your beat limit though. However, throughout the main levels, you can collect green chips to restore it a little bit. As for boss levels, you have to avoid the slew of attacks thrown out and hit them 5 times to beat the battle. At the end of each level, you are ranked based on the amount of beats you have remaining, the comparison of greats, earlies, lates, and misses you got, and your highest combo count. The platforming is a ton of fun. The main reason for this is the level design being as great as it is. The very start of each level gives you a small section with no danger for you to get used to the initial beat before adding in the obstacles for the rest of the level. Said obstacles are placed in ways that make you consider how you move, but can still give super fun experiences, especially since everything is tied to the beat of the music. There really is no better feeling in video games sometimes than doing stuff to whatever song you're listening to. As far as the movement goes, you have a lot of control over what you do. You can make your dashes go slightly farther than normal by holding in the direction of wherever you're going, and you can cut off dashes by going in the opposite direction once you've already started dashing. The ground pound can also be used in place of homing attack at times for faster movement as opposed to jumping until the homing attack activates. Even with all of these options, you don't have to do something every single beat either, as your combo count is tied more to you not messing up rather than not having made an input in a while, which is useful to reset yourself if you lose focus or to avoid pointlessly moving and getting yourself killed. And if you do want to do something while not moving, you have the option of charging your moves, or teabagging, whichever pleases you more. Everything allows for a constant, satisfying flow if you're good enough with on-the-fly reactions. Even if you can't figure out what you need to do for some areas, you have the ability to rewind time, with its entire purpose being to help you figure out and undo any mistakes you made and adjust accordingly. And in those situations, there are the green chips, which do give you back a little bit of extra time, but they also work as guiding hints for what you're supposed to do to navigate through. After beating the game, you get 6 bonus songs that you can play in the free play mode, along with every song you unlocked from the story mode, with one of them being the main theme, but with Japanese vocals, and it manages to improve the already super good main theme. There's also hard mode, which gives slight to drastic changes in the amount of notes and their placement. Alongside this, there are red notes, where you have to hit both parts or the movement doesn't count as normal. This can completely change how some levels are played, since again every aspect of gameplay is tied to these notes, and if you have a difficult time adjusting, the sound check is a makeshift practice mode, and is incredibly useful for hard versions of songs, especially if you don't want to go into the hard versions of songs blind. By the way, the free play mode has one more feature that generally isn't done in too many other rhythm games outside of like Rock Band and Guitar Hero. You can play any song on any stage. What? This means that you can have any boss song against any boss song on any normal level, any level song against any boss. You can even do so much as have the normal version of the tutorial song on the final boss, making it incredibly easy, and the hard difficulty of the final boss song on the tutorial level, and it can potentially destroy you. It only has 2 enemies and no pits to fall into. And that's the crazy thing about this. Because every level's design is so different and each song has its own tempo and beat changes that occur throughout a song, any variation from the already fantastic default gameplay is incredibly refreshing, both visually and gameplay wise. Basically, wow, the rhythm-based platformer does a really good job at being a rhythm-based platformer. I'm being 100% honest when I say this. I could not find a single bad thing to say about this game. I thought for so long and could not find something I genuinely didn't like. This game is amazing to me. Honestly, this segment could be called something completely different. As a matter of fact, so I'm gonna use this segment to not say anything bad about the game, but instead give potential ideas for a sequel to any developer who may or may not be watching this video, because I want another one of these games so badly. Idea 1. Additional game modes. These would change the circumstances around the gameplay through means outside of the beats that hard mode already gives. And these game modes would be available either after beating the game or beating the hard version of songs, however you want to go about that. Mad Rat Must Die mode and Rat Gods Must Die mode. Yes, the titles are references to Devil May Cry. Mad Rat Must Die takes away the green chips and reduces the time limit. Rat Gods Must Die has no time limit, however you can't get hit once or you have to restart the entire level. Also, there's a wall that constantly creeps up on you which kills you if you touch it, and there's no rewinding. These modes would add pressure to do well either based on whatever time limit is given or just to do well period, since for one of them it doesn't have a time limit. Something to give a big challenge for the game. Idea 2. Alternative note types. These could be another difficulty system that I feel would be worthwhile to add. Green beats that give extra points, these would just be for style and don't actually hinder your movement if missed. Think of them like the performer notes in Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory or the scratch notes for the Persona dancing games. Then there are blue notes that would damage you. These would work like, and this is gonna sound weird, but the Mush Mode Spinies and DDR Mario mix that would damage you if you hit them. Really obscure reference, I know, but that's the closest thing I could find. It would essentially be more of a penalty for missing notes, but they would not take the place of actual red notes because that might actually end up getting you killed at times. These two different notes would cause you to pay attention to the slider more, as you'll actually have to avoid pressing certain notes to proceed, or choose to hit the green notes for additional points, and could be an entirely different way to play the game. But yeah, these are just some things that would spice up the game a bit, and if some people don't want to play them, they don't have to. You can actually get stuck in time. It's pretty rare for this to happen though, as far as I'm aware, unless you're just unlucky like me and it happened on your first playthrough. This is most possible with boss fights, since the amount of time you can go back is reset once you get to another phase, and if you jump into them with only one place to go, well, yeah. Once you know about it though, it's incredibly easy to avoid. Speaking of the time rewind, the game doesn't outright say that you can rewind time without dying. It's done in cutscenes, which kind of implies that you can do it in gameplay, but it's not 100% obvious that that carries over in the gameplay. I only found out about it watching someone else who was told by their stream chat. Definitely would have been great to know that during my first playthrough, but whatever, I can make use of it now. And even though I can say I'm fairly good at this game, I'll still admit that the grade ratings are a tad bit lenient. I can remember some times where I just barely cleared a song and I very much felt like I should have gotten a B at best, and somehow I ended up getting an A. But hey, we take those. This is one of the most fun platformers I've played in a hot minute. There isn't a single aspect about it that I don't at the very least like, if not adore. The overall spectacular style and music, with incredible gameplay and enjoyable story, makes this one of my favorite rhythm games ever right now. It's available on PS4 and Switch, but again, if any developers are watching this, please release this on Steam. I will buy it again. Especially with the ability to mod the game, so people can add in their own songs and even modding characters like, oh, I don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog. I know I said I wanted a Sonic rhythm game that plays like Melody of Memory, but this works extremely well too. I mean, Mad Rat already has a spin dash and a homing attack. Sonic would fit right into this game. Moral of the story, people, go through your backlog. You never know what experiences you're missing out on, and I would have hated myself to miss out on this. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. Needless to say, this is probably my favorite game to have reviewed so far, because oh my goodness, so many aspects of it are so good to me. And whether this video even gets any traction or not, I don't care. This game is too good for me to not talk about it even a little bit on this channel. But anyways, tell me about the games in your backlog. You guys play video games, I know you have one. And this video is already long enough as it is, so be sure to look down in the description because that's where all of my social medias are located. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord are all in the description, and there are all ways for you guys to be notified of whenever I have another video or have an update for the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until the next video, take care.